The 12-100 Olympus M.Zuiko F4 IS Pro lens. I'll tell you why I ended up returning it to the store. On paper and in theory, this lens would be perfect for me. And before I tell you the 3 things that made me return the lens, I want to tell you the best things. Here are the 2 reasons that I bought the lens. Number 1 is stabilization. All the reviews online told me that the image stabilization of this lens was one of the best. And I must agree, I was very impressed with the capabilities of the stabilization. I was actually looking at a Panasonic zoom lens instead, but reviews and online forums told me that the stabilization of the Olympus was better. But while zoomed in to 100mm, it jumps around like crazy, which makes sense because it's equal to being on a 200mm lens on a full frame camera. But even when walking around, not zoomed in entirely, it's fairly stable. Number 2, the zoom range. This was quite the big thing, being able to get all sort of shots with just one lens. That would be roughly about the same as 24 to 200mm. The bokeh and the image quality, especially while being zoomed fully into 100mm, is quite impressive, I think. I guess you might already know all these things. The build quality is also very nice. It definitely feels like a pro-grade lens. But here are the 3 reasons I returned it. Number 1 is the price. I feel like no one on YouTube talks about this. Maybe it's because all of the YouTubers reach this stage where the price of the gear is no longer a factor, or the fact that they are borrowing the gear from the manufacturer or getting it for free. But this lens is so incredibly expensive compared to other micro four thirds lenses I own. And when I'm comparing it to the price of the 12 to 32mm Panasonic kit lens and the price of my Mikey cinema lineup, I just can't defend the purchase of a lens which is 5 times as expensive. And the total price of the camera and the lens would make me very hesitant to bring it along on trips. And then, what's the point of owning it if you're never going to use it? Number 2 is the size and the weight. You can't really tell how big something is by looking at the specs. I know this might not be a reason for pro users, but it's very important to me. It's also the reason I switched back from the Blackmagic 6K to the Blackmagic 4K. So besides being expensive, the size and the weight would make me think twice about bringing the camera along. Number 3 is the F4 is just not enough. F4 on the full frame would be enough for my taste. But for the shots I like to take, F4 just feels flat when pairing with the small sensor of the Blackmagic 4K. And if I'm not shooting with a fast lens, then I feel like I might just bring along my phone, which is always in my pocket anyways. And for the price of this, I could get a small kit lens like the 12 to 32 Panasonic for light use, and then 2 Mikey cinema lenses for more artistic stuff. And I could even get a very cheap glide cam and even some ND filters. The next thing you need to do is to either watch one of my clips recorded with the 12 to 100mm, or you could watch this 12 to 32mm review video. I think the 12 to 32 is a much better purchase for hobbyists, and in that video you will hear much more about it. I hope to see you there.